welcome back to this week's video. I'm super excited. I'm doing a video on sleeves, which I've been avoiding sleeves since probably forever because I just didn't understand them. And I do understand them a lot better now, so I wanted to reach out to all my fellow seamstresses who have a really hard time understanding how to sleeve. So this video, the science of sleeves, I'm going to give you some great advice that my professor told me, and it really helped to clear up a lot of stuff that I was just really confused about on how sleeves worked. So we're gonna get started right away, and the first thing you need to know is there are 3 words you need to remember throughout this video to really help you understand and follow along. And those 3 words are height, width, and shape. And these are the fundamental important things about sleeves that I just really didn't understand before, and I'm so excited again that I understand them because now my wardrobe can expand. I'm wearing this shirt that I made. It's very cute. I'm actually wearing it with a really floofy, here, I gotta show you guys my outfit. I made this black tulle skirt forever ago, and I was filming a reel earlier today, and I put this outfit on for it, and I decided I liked it, and that wasn't going to change. So now I'm all dressed up for you guys. Anyway, back to regular scheduled programming. So what exactly do these words mean? Well, my professor, when she was explaining them, I wrote it down on a very, very quick note so I wouldn't forget. Height equals fitted, width equals poof. I know that sounds ridiculous. And shape equals pattern. So the first word we're going to cover is height. And I know this is probably really ridiculous, but the height on the arc, if you look at a sleeve pattern, I'll put one up here just for demonstration, you can see that the top of it is arced. And this is very important because the higher the arc, the more fitted your sleeve is going to get. And I didn't know that. I just knew that sleeves had an arc on it. And knowing that the more arc you put on that means the more fitted the sleeve, it really helps, especially if you're going into tailoring or if you're going into any other, or if you're just starting to sew and you're like, I really want to start making my own patterns, but sleeves confuse me, and sleeves confuse me as well. So that is what height is. Now the second word is width. And the width of the sleeve really is kind of complicated. I mean, it's not complicated, but it is, because you can't just, well, you could just expand it out and then draw a new arc. But the easiest way to do this is to grab a sleeve pattern. For this demonstration, I'll be using a fitted sleeve pattern, and I just cut it so it's easier to work with, but you would probably be using the whole sleeve, and the process isn't any different. So what you're going to do first is you're going to take your sleeve and split it into equal parts. The easiest way to do this is to just split it in half and then keep splitting it in half until you get, well, as many splits as you want. I only did 7 for this, but you might want to do more or less, just depending on your own preference. Once you get all of that measured out, you're going to want to do the same to the top. Here I just drew a line straight up the center so I knew where the middle was, and then I continued to measure out even spaces the exact same amount I did on the bottom of the sleeve. Once you're done evenly spacing out everything, you're going to draw a line one at a time from that one tick mark to the first tick mark and so on. This is going to be where you're going to cut and slash your sleeve to make it wider. Now, as soon as that is done, you're going to take your scissors and you're just going to cut along each of those lines. Do not cut all the way through right now. You just want to cut right up to the top. And then once we get it laid out on the paper, you will be severing those for this exercise. Now, to get started, I just simply put one piece of tape right onto the sleeve pattern just to hold it down while I get this all situated. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to straighten out your sleeve pattern. Now, if you want to do this before you cut it, I do actually suggest that. I didn't think about it until after I cut it, but you're going to want to make sure that this is all lined up. Put your ruler down and draw a straight line. This will help you just keep everything in line while you're doing this exercise. Once you get the line drawn on both sides of the paper, you can start the exercise. So You're going to want to finish severing those cuts that you did, and you're going to want to space these out very evenly because this is what is going to keep your arc even and make it not so it's fitted. It's going to be more slouchy or rouged if that's what you choose to do. Now for the other side, the other way to do this is to actually extend it out more on the bottom. So you're going to keep it even on the upper top where the curve is, but you're going to make it wider on the bottom, and this is going to give you what you know as the bell sleeve. This really helps you to just keep the sleeve even, and it also, if you're trying to go for a bell sleeve or a sleeve that has a wider base or a poofy sleeve, you're going to need that extra length in the bottom of the sleeve. So this is a really great way to help get that length. Another great example as to why you should use the slash and cut method instead of just making the sleeve really wide. If you just simply were to expand it out and gather it where you needed it, you're going to end up with this really weird puff. And this is what it's going to look like. It's going to look very tall and it's going to look very goofy. A lot of times when they're doing a little more puff sleeve, it is using an evenly gathered stitch, whereas if you were to just extend out your pattern, it might not end up being evenly gathered or even at all, and that will cause this really weird looking poof at the cap of your sleeve. And nobody wants that. Everyone wants their sleeve to look nice and elegant and pretty. So that is another great reason why you should always use the slash and cut method when you are patterning out or altering the shape of a sleeve. Now the third word, and probably the most important word, is shape. Now the shape of your sleeve, what it's going to look like, it's going to dictate the height, the width, everything about the sleeve. So you need to determine what the sleeve is going to look like before you're actually patterning out. And obviously that is pretty obvious, especially if you're getting into pattern making. You need to know what you're going for in order to end up with what you want. Let's use a puffy sleeve and a fitted, when it's fitted here and it's puffy right here as an example. And I will show you how to pattern that out right now. So for this demonstration, we'll be using a fitted sleeve block again. A block has no seam allowance. If you don't know what a block is and want to know more, be sure to check out my video on basic blocks. So now we're going to draw a line to separate the bottom and the top half of the sleeve. Once you get that line drawn, you're going to do the same thing you did in the previous video tutorial on sleeves. You're going to do the slash and cut method. So you're going to measure out even spaces, and I did the exact same amount. I did 7 spaces, drew the line all the way to the top so that I knew exactly where the middle of my sleeve was. You're going to do the same process on the top as well, and then once you're done, you're going to draw your lines to each coordinating slash. Now simply cut out both pieces of your sleeve and you're ready for part 2. So go ahead and cut those lines that you drew. I will not be severing all the way through on this one. I am just going to extend the bottom out. You're going to want to use a ruler to make sure that each one is evenly spaced out so that when you sew this up together, you don't have an odd shaped puff. You are also going to extending the bottom a little bit. I extended it only by 1 inch, but if you wanted a more drastic poof, you could extend it out more. Once you're done with that, you're just going to cut it out, and then this is what it looks like. As you can see, we've got a nice puffy sleeve right at the top, and then it's fitted at the bottom. It really is just an elegant sleeve and not as difficult as one might think. And the next thing we're going to cover is the actual cap of the sleeve, the little arc that we went over in the beginning. The front and the back of that is different, and it is actually important that they are different because if you look at a basic sloper, which I will show you right now, you can see that the front of your basic sloper has more of a curve in the sleeve than the back of your basic sloper. This means that you need more fabric in the front of your sleeve than in the back. So your arc of your sleeve is actually going to look something like this. And that is very important because it's just not going to fit right. It won't feel right and it won't look right if you don't have the right proportions in your sleeve. So that brings us right to where how do you put in sleeve. There are actually two different ways that you can put in sleeves, the easy way and the hard way. And when I was in class, our professor had us do the hard way, and it was really annoying. I prefer the easy way, but there are some cases when you actually do need to do it the harder way. And these methods are called the sew-in method, and I like to call the other one the zip-up method. I don't know what it's called. I just call it that because it just makes sense to me. But the sew-in method is when you sew the sides of your garment first, and then you sew your sleeve, and then you put the sleeve and the garment and you sew them together. Of course, the sew-in method. This method is a little bit more difficult just because you might end up needing to gather your sleeve. Like when we made this top in class, we gathered it just a little bit around the cap of the sleeve because it doesn't exactly fit, and because you want a little bit more room. You want some movement, some ease in it. But that method is difficult, and it can be very, very annoying because when I was doing it, my professor showed me how to do it first. And she gathered it and it looked gorgeous. I sewed it and it was fabulous. And then I tried, and I really questioned the science of everything known to mankind when I was doing this because I kept gathering it and it just wasn't fitting in the arm socket. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And so my professor helped me, and she let out basically all the gathers, and it was pretty well gathered, and it still wasn't fitting correctly in this arm socket. And she, like, I don't know what she did, but it was magic. And I was like, how does this still fit when I couldn't even get it to fit and it was much more gathered? But you know, that's just how fabric works sometimes. And anyway, she did it and it looked fabulous, and I have absolutely no idea how I kept gathering it and it still fit in the armhole, and then she let out all the gathers and it fit even better in the armhole. So it can be complicated and it can be annoying, especially when you're first starting out. It was the first technically real sleeve I've ever sewn, and it was annoying, but it taught me a lot about fabric and all of that, and that is why I'm bringing this video to you guys. So now the easy method for sewing sleeves in. Sewing sleeves in this way really just makes me happy because it's so easy and it's stress-free. What you're gonna do, you're not gonna sew up any of the side seams on anything. You're just going to you're gonna line up your sleeve arc to your armhole arc, sew it, and then you're going to zip up from the bottom or the top of the sleeve, whatever suits your fancy. You're just going to sew one straight line, and it's so easy, it's so nice. It just makes life a lot more lovable, you know? But again, you can't always do it like that. So that was the dresser crash course on the science of sleeves. I hope it clears some stuff up about how you actually put a sleeve together, how you actually pattern out sleeves, and how sleeves actually work. Because for the longest time, it just confused me point blank as to why the sleeve was different arc on one side or the other, or why one arc was bigger, and I just didn't know. And it's surprisingly difficult to find books that have sleeve information in them. Like, I've looked, and it's difficult to find, which is ridiculous. But I hope that this video really did help you, and I hope you gave it a thumbs up, you checked out the other videos on my channel, subscribed maybe even, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss next week or any other video after this one. So thank you guys for watching, stay tuned, and I'll see you all next time at the dresser.